today we have a very special guest. We have Elastos with us, and joining us, representing Elastos is Fakul, who is the Chief Growth Officer of the platform and project. So Elastos are a Web3 solutions provider that provide a host of different services and platforms for projects to make their journey into Web3. So I won't go too much into it. I'll let Elastos themselves introduce themselves. But please, Fakul, let's have a bit of intro from yourself. Tell us more about Elastos, and for the viewers at home, what they need to know.
Sure. Thanks, Ash. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to join the MoleDAO community. So, as you mentioned, my name's Fakul Mia. I lead the growth team for Elastos, which is an open source Web3 project. I also have the privilege of serving as an elected council member for the Elastos Cyber Republic DAO, as well as leading the CREDA project, which is a prominent project within the Elastos ecosystem. In terms of my background, I actually come from the boring world of investment banking, where I spent 15 plus years at Morgan Stanley, leading global margin financing, technology development and risk, and that's actually where I got into the whole blockchain space back in 2017. And on a personal note, I have a passion for things like economics, financial inclusion, decentralized finance, as well as the obvious, advancements in Web3 and AI that we're seeing, that is really shaping new economic paradigms. In terms of Elastos, so Elastos has been around for a while now. For the past 5 years, we've been building what we call the foundations of Web3 with one fundamental belief that everyone should have the opportunity to experience this new digital economy that we're all starting to live in their own unique way, and embrace what we call our own digital destiny. So the way it works is Elastos is very much a revolutionary ecosystem. It empowers not only individuals, but businesses and brands to take control of their digital destiny. And it's our mission to shape that digital landscape within the era of Web3. And so for the past 5 years, we've been building the groundwork for that, at the infrastructure level, and we're now starting to take, Elastos as a whole to the wider market. In terms of the original founders of Elastos, it was founded by two visionaries, Rong Chen, an industry veteran that came from Microsoft and has expertise in operating systems, and then Sunny Feng Han, who's a distinguished academic. And what they did was they envisioned this new internet, as I described it, and they always held that at their philosophy. But in terms of how did that build occur, it's made up of a number of different Web3 components. It's more than just what most people are probably familiar with, the blockchain. You also need things like peer-to-peer networking, decentralized identities, decentralized storage, strong community governance structures, as well as secure, decentralized transaction execution environments. So you can imagine that's why it's taking 5 years, because there's a lot that has needed to be built. But when you bring them all together, it creates a very secure and transparent environment where people can really be who they need to be, and trust is at the heart of it. And so at Elastos, we believe in that data ownership and that autonomy. And we believe that everyone should have self-sovereignty. And the way we do that is by introducing what we call the Elastos decentralized identifier. So if you think about it, if you're operating in this new space of Web3, just having a wallet address isn't going to be sufficient. Sure, it allows you to execute transactions, but when you want to start to interact more at a more day-to-day personal level, think of the metaverse. You need an actual identity, and then an identity that you can not only trust, but you can manage yourself. And so that's why we built, and we're one of the only ecosystems that from day one built a dedicated identity chain that allows users and businesses and pretty much anything to create identities, and it scales. We can support DIDs as the short form for everyone on Earth, and it's fully interoperable. And so our vision is to very much connect everyone. So yeah, that's Elastos at a super high level.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing an overview of everything there. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of points that you mentioned. I was wondering if you wanted to share some examples of the different tools that businesses have found useful coming into the ecosystem using the Elastos ecosystem. Anything that you'd like to share on that front?
Yeah, so often or not, when we get to this point, I'll give a good example. Because we have so much technology and it's so sophisticated, it can often be quite difficult to understand it. So a new approach I've been taking is by instead talking about an actual project that is built within Elastos and has used the different core components and why it's important and why it matters. So let's take Elasticity, pretty much one of the hero products of Elastos, which is revolutionizing the digital landscape using AI and Web3 technology, specifically the Elastos technology. So what is Elasticity? Elasticity is a distribution platform with a mission to create an equitable and inclusive digital environment where freeing creativity through what Sash, who leads the project, has termed as the access economy. And the way it works is it introduces an industry-first Web3 DRM system that basically empowers content creators to not only own, but also license and protect their intellectual property using things like IP encryption, licensing, and stakeholder royalties. So, most people are probably familiar with basic NFT marketplaces. Think of Blur, think of OpenSea. They allow people to, list NFTs and sell them. But beyond that, there's a lot of limitation. And what might surprise you is they're actually semi-centralized. And so City's taken a drastic approach to this. And the way it does it is by leveraging a number of the different components. So I'll quickly go through them one by one, and then it'll probably make more sense. So you've got City, which has a number of districts within it. And for someone to be able to truly participate in its ecosystem, it's recommended that they get an Elastos DID, because that allows them to not only, let's say I'm a creator, list something I want to sell, but actually can prove I am who I am. So City, offers several ways of verifying the content seller. So then someone who's buying, goods within City can basically determine their level of trust when they're purchasing an NFT, as an example. But also, City has taken this truly decentralized angle. And so think about it, when you go and buy an NFT, what do you do with that NFT? You probably store it in a wallet, you might store it locally. What Elastos does is it's leveraging Hive. So Hive is the Elastos decentralized storage solution. And so if I was to break that down even further, let's give a real example. So Elasticity, actually towards the end of last year, launched this really interesting product. It was called the Flynn AI District. So it's actually, just as people are starting to talk about AI, more publicly, and what Flint allows you to do is it actually allows you to leverage the power of the blockchain to generate AI art, and then you can immediately turn that art into an NFT and list that on the LSCT marketplace, and then people can buy it, and then you can even set up, depending on the nature of the art, or if you go down a slightly different route and you do things like videos, you can actually, set up, you can utilize the DRM technology, which basically is, think of when you buy an NFT and you have the royalty structure. This actually is like the next level of it, where you can, rent videos or you can sell videos, and every time someone accesses it or sells their royalties are automatically sent back to the content creator. Now, it sounds somewhat simplistic and something we all want, but under the hood, it requires a huge amount of technical capability and components. And that's where all the different Elastos technologies, as I mentioned, you're using the Elastos blockchain, which is merge mined with Bitcoin. So we have that security layer. It uses the decentralized storage solution. It uses Carrier, which is a decentralized peer-to-peer network. So you can actually send stuff and speak to people in a fully decentralized manner. And then the new thing they're building, which I probably won't go into because it's a little bit complex, is what is known as the Elastos runtime, which is a secure, trusted execution environment. So, for example, imagine if OpenSea suddenly went down. What happens to all those NFTs? Or let's say their servers are pulled. You're in a lot of trouble. What Elastos runtime does is it allows you to execute transactions or access content in a decentralized manner, because basically you're running the actual app locally on the internet. So, if your favorite app store got pulled down or whatever, you don't need to worry about that. You'll still have access to your video, even if, say, the equivalent of Netflix went down.
Gotcha. That's really interesting. I would like to pull on the thread which you mentioned in regards to AI and being able to immediately mint, right? So this is definitely been a hot topic, over the last few months, right? Where AI has been kind of a huge paradigm shift for content creators, for people who are developing things. It seems like what Elastos is doing is they're trying to marry a lot of these concepts, right? Where I understand you guys have the DID and then the ability to use AI to immediately create art and develop things on the chain. I'm curious to hear two things. Number one, what's the approach that you guys have taken towards merging AI and crypto? And number two, where do you see the space as a whole evolving with these two technologies kind of progressing forward? This is something I like to ask a guest, because a lot of them are using AI in some capacity, and it's always interesting to hear how that implementation is. So yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. You often get the very obvious question around AI where people say, "Oh, this is great. It's going to replace people's jobs." But beyond that, there's the commercialization approach where people will just integrate a small element of AI into their usual product offering, so they can suddenly start jumping on the AI bandwagon and say, "Hey, look, we have AI products. Come and check us out." It's great for marketing, but is it really useful, at a more strategic product offering? Probably not. And so, when it comes to Elastos, I should, caveat it that Elastos builds the infrastructure tools, but we rely on our community members or community devs to use it as they see fit. And so, the LA City team was one great example where, they've pretty much integrated most or leveraged most of the Elastos tech stack. But then they also saw a really interesting opportunity to leverage AI, where, some people are really good at creating things like NFTs, or, they have that creative mind, but others aren't. I'm terrible. I can barely draw a stick figure, let alone a piece of artwork. But I have good ideas. And so I liked Flint because I could just go in there, put in prompts around what I want to generate, and then it will generate an image for me. But then Flint also has actually like this boost function. I forget what it's called. It's like a boost function where it adds an additional amount of creativity. So you end up with some really interesting artwork. And then, once I have that artwork, I can kind of turn that into an NFT. I can save it for myself. I can sell it. But it's interesting. It's an interesting proof of concept, and I'm sure it will mature into a more interesting product offering. Another example, and I guess one that's a bit closer to me in terms of where we're using AI, is at Creda. So at Creda, what we're doing there is we're introducing the concept of Web3 credit scores. So as we know, more and more people are interacting in the blockchain space, right? They're doing transactions, they're doing DeFi, GameFi, SocialFi. But all that activity, where people are generating credibility and a reputation, that is completely ignored in the real world. So those that are familiar with traditional credit scoring agencies such as Experian, FICO, TransUnion, where you rely on those credit bureaus to give you an accurate credit score, so you can go and take out a loan or something. Um, you know that is kind of that additional information that you get on chain is missed. And so what Creed aims to do is to look at users on chain history and their on chain capabilities, merge that with real world data, and then generate powerful credibility scores, credit for DeFi, credibility scores for GameFi and SocialFi in terms of reputation scores. And the way we do that is by leveraging deep AI to train our models to generate those scores. So I think that's where true AI will actually have more interesting use cases within the Web3 space. The last one is around the role of agents that AI can play. So you know within the blockchain space, typically when you see transactions on a public chain, you would envisage, oh, there's a person behind that. But eventually we will get to a point where there's an expectation that the majority of those transactions will actually be agents or bots that are doing it to make things more efficient. Think of IoT when you're trying to program a system. Imagine you've got a smart house and you've got a ton of different IoT devices, but you've got a finite amount of resources. You need powerful algorithms or computations to figure out, okay, what should be prioritized, how should your resources be allocated. And that same concept will exist in the blockchain space. And I think that's where AI will be really interesting. When you have these agents that are really making the blockchain space more efficient and more optimized, and they'll do that through the power of AI.
Gotcha. That all these things. If you had told me like maybe even just a few years ago that hey, this is what AI is able to do, I would say you're crazy, right? It's almost like we're living in a sci-fi like universe. But yeah, I think in regard to that, let's move into another small thread before we move on to the next larger questions, which is DID in particular. So obviously um, a lot of the I think mania is the right word behind NFT and the ecosystem in general was driven by collectibles and DID, right? PFPs, collectibles. You have your bored apes on Ethereum. You have your Azukis and your Punks and all these things. And over time, the idea of what a PFP collectible or DID digital identity is has changed over time. Um, Elastos and Elasticity are they are supported by the collection called the Fans. I was looking into it earlier today. I'm curious to learn more about what that is and how that works within the ecosystem of Elastos.
Oh yeah, sure. So within Elastos, there are actually multiple marketplaces. So Elasticity is the most prominent one right now. There's another one called Pessar, and across the two, we've had some very interesting and large amounts and really cool, artwork that people have listed and sold, and there's a good, strong community. But what I found really interesting is when individuals have started to introduce utility into those NFTs. So Fans was a great example that you chose actually. So thanks for pointing that out. So the Fans team, they trying to remember, they issued I think 2,882 NFTs, um, which basically is akin to the number of ELA tokens there will ever be in existence, which is 28,820,000, I believe. And so Fans, when you buy a Fans, you get a really cool piece of artwork, but also there's additional utility. So, for example, if you hold a Fans, you can actually stake them on our DEX called Glide Finance, and you'll earn free tokens. It also gives you access to interesting, their community and their different offerings. But what was really interesting with Fans was actually last year. So the way our consensus model works in terms of community proposals, improvement plans, is it falls under the Cyber Republic DAO. And what the Cyber Republic DAO is basically made up of all ELA token holders. And once a year, token holders will vote in what is known as 12 council members. And those council members are responsible for reviewing and voting on proposals put forward by the community. And there's a 2/3 majority to pass a proposal. And then there is an action opportunity after that if the communities don't like what the council have approved. If enough community vetoes come in, you can actually just shoot down the whole proposal. So it's got a good secure mechanism. But going back to Fans, what Fans did was they actually ran as a council member and they got elected. And so their community was reviewing and voting on proposals, and they had representatives that joined the council, and it was a really interesting experiment and very successful. And actually, I think they did a great job last year. And then another NFT collection probably worth talking about is the Bella collection. So the Bella collection is I guess the native NFT collection from Elastos. And so they minted, oh God, Sasha's going to kill me. I think it's 500 Bella NFTs. There's like very exclusive gold ones, there's non-gold ones, but they're really cool. Great artwork. I own a few. And all their proceeds just went straight into the Elastos treasury, and it's all being used to build the platform. Plus, they get donations from the community, so people have sent their own NFTs, non-Bella NFTs, etc. But interesting piece of utility that the Bella NFT gives right now, and I know there's more to come, is if you hold a Bella NFT, you actually get a discount when using the Flint AI product. I believe it's 12%. So when you go to generate, an NFT using Flint, if you hold a Bella in your wallet, you get an immediate discount on that. So again, that's a really interesting example of a real use case or real utility associated with an NFT. And that's really the future, right? Is NFTs being more than just pretty artwork, is when you introduce real utility behind them.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I was curious because I saw the cute elephant, right? And I was wondering, okay, is this part of the team or is this? But it's interesting to hear, the DAO and how it all works. Okay, we'll move on in the interest of time, into the next portion, which is gonna cover the token. But very quickly, I want to do a very quick break just to highlight to the audience, for everyone who is tuned in. Thank you for your time and joining us tonight. We do have an FAQ section for Elastos and for Fakul. If you have any questions, do put up. Okay, hold them till the end of the session. We'll probably do a few more questions, and then we'll go into FAQ. But if you do have anything to add to the conversation, feel free to add on in the comments below, or later on we'll have FAQ. If you want to turn on your microphone, you can raise your hand. But yeah, I just want to have that quick segue. But yeah, let's move on into the next portion, which is going to talk a little bit more about the token and the ecosystem behind it. Let's talk a little bit about the ELA token, the ELA token. How does it work within the ecosystem of the products, and what can users expect about it?
Yeah, sure. So the ELA token is very much a utility / governance token. The way it works is, I'll actually take a slight step back just to explain our consensus mechanism, because it is a little bit more complicated than other chains, but it's intentional because we opt for a combination of security but also speed across our ecosystem. And so the way Elastos works is we have what we call the Elastos consensus. So it's a pioneering approach to decentralization within our ecosystem, ensuring both security and flexibility through 3 individual consensus mechanisms. So the first one is what we call the Elastos main chain. So that's our security layer. And it uses what is known as auxiliary proof of work. So it leverages the Elastos main chain and integrates Bitcoin miners' hash rate to produce blocks through merge mining. And so what does that actually mean? Basically, it means that the Elastos main chain is merge mined by Bitcoin miners. So we are actually recycling, so we're very sustainable, the Bitcoin hash rate to help secure our main chain, which is really cool. And then below the main chain, we have what we call a main chain side chain architecture. And so if you think of the main chain as a security layer, side chains is where all the action takes place, smart contract execution, decentralized identifier, registry and updates, etc. And they are secured by a very innovative, and actually we only launched it a few months ago, a consensus mechanism called variable bonded proof of stake. So that is a unique hybrid delegated proof of stake mechanism that offers variable bonding time, an improved profit sharing model compared to the traditional delegated proof of stake. It also increases the number of active inactive mobility stake because it introduces more competition and helps to secure block finality, thereby creating a stable and efficient foundation for Elastos. And the way, variable bonded proof of stake, or BPOS as we like to call it, works is that you have node operators and then you have stakers. So stakers will be someone like me who holds ELA tokens and I want to help secure the network. And so what I would do is I would stake my ELA for a predetermined period of time. And the longer I stake for, the greater my voting right or my voting equity. So 10 days, one ELA equals one voting right. 100 days, it doubles. So I get two voting rights. 1,000 days, it triples. And so what that basically means is the longer I stake for, the greater my reward in terms of ELA tokens. And so think of it as a really nice log curve. And that's really interesting because it encourages both the validator owners, so the node owners, and the stakers to focus on securing the network for a long period of time because the rewards they earn are higher the longer that they vote for. And it's quite competitive and actually very attractive. And I would encourage people to join our social channels, Discord, Telegram, to learn more, or our developer portal. And then the last piece of our consensus mechanism is what we call proof of integrity. So that is the consensus layer backed by strong protocols such as the cyber, which is the Cyber Republic DAO, right? So that's where I describe token holders voting in 12 entities to act as the council, and then they vote. And so, having these three clear and powerful consensus mechanism makes up all of the Elastic. It makes up the Elastic consensus as a whole, and all of that is powered by the ELA token. In terms of the token itself, it's a deflationary token because there's a finite number of ELA tokens. So the total amount was previously over 30 million. There was a large community burn that took place a couple of years ago. And so now that's reduced to 28.28 million, I think is the exact number. And the final ELA token will be mined, a long time in the future. And then we have halvings, etc. For those that are obviously not financial advice, but if you're interested in getting access to the ELA token, you can get it through our DEX guide. It's also available on things like Coinbase, Gate.io, Huobi, KuCoin, so fairly easily available. And then also you can mine it through staking.
All right, gotcha. Thank you. There's a lot of mechanisms, and it's really impressive because there's lots of tokens that primarily just have staking or they have just swaps. But there seems to be a really well thought out ecosystem for holder. I'm curious. Is it where can users pick them up if they are interested to learn more or pick those ELA tokens up?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you want to learn more about Elastos, then go to the website elastos.info. That's kind of the main page for information. It includes details of Elastos, how it works, the different components, the ecosystem, and also I believe it also lists the different exchanges that you can access the token on, such as Coinbase, Huobi, KuCoin, etc. That's the best place for an everyday person to go. If you're a developer and you want to learn more technically, then go to elastos.dev, DEV. That's our developer portal, and actually that was recently launched in the first half of the year. So a lot of information available there as well. And then obviously, if you have any follow-up questions, please join our social channels, on Discord, as well as Telegram.
All right, awesome. All right, thank you for sharing that. We do have, this is just a follow-up comment. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So let's talk a little bit about MoleDAO and Elastos. So we have obviously announced a partnership. Moving forward, we'll be putting out a bit more information on how we're collaborating. But Fakul, if you would like to give the audience a bit of a preview as to what our community can expect from Elastos moving forward, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I think we're breaking the news here on the Twitter space. So exciting times. But yes, Elastos and MoleDAO are very much partnering to revolutionize the Web3 educational space. And so what we will be doing, there's a number of different angles, so I'll quickly go through them. First and foremost is in terms of promoting education and hackathons. So for us, it's all about educating individuals and businesses on Web3, so they can understand, what skills do you need, what sort of knowledge do you require to embrace this new decentralized revolution. And so we'll be offering things like hackathons, courses, etc., to help people better understand, blockchain technology and Web3. In addition to that, just to go a little bit deeper, so we will be, Elastos will actually be putting forward some of our in-house experts to curate and deliver courses within the MoleDAO curriculum, specifically around specifically around Web3 identities. So it will cover things like wallets, naming services, decentralized identifiers, verifiable credentials, soul-bound tokens, and the goal very much is to enhance the understanding and the adoption of these different technologies and what is needed and why identity is so core in this new realm, that we call Web3, or some people also call it the metaverse. And then more generally, we'll be collaborating to help develop the MoleDAO curriculum in terms of where we have expertise around different components of the decentralized tech stack. So we're very excited to do that. But also, something I'm super excited by is, MoleDAO will be exploring around how to integrate the Elastos decentralized identifier technology into its product offering. And so, if you think about it at a high level, individuals go and complete MoleDAO courses and then they're issued a certificate. So what we'll be exploring is, how can decentralized identifiers be introduced into that, so a user can go and sign up to a course through their DID. When they complete the course, they may get the traditional certificate, but they may also get that as a verifiable credential that is issued to their DID, and so that user can store that wherever they want and access it and display it when they're interacting with others. So really cool. And then also, at Elastos, we have a strong network within the educational space, across institutes, and so we'll be where we can helping to facilitate introductions between MoleDAO and these educational institutions around the world, for collaboration and mutual benefits. But yeah, super excited by it. There will be a more formal blog post that should come out, I guess, after this Twitter space that will go into it. But I think it's so important, right? Especially for Elastos, where our tech stack is quite deep and complex. Having educational content around it, or just more generally around Web3, is what we need to help not just developers, enter this space and build, but even the layman, the everyday person that barely understands Web 2, let alone Web 3, and why it's suddenly important. So yeah, it's a great to partner.
Awesome, thank you. I hope the audience is excited. As Faku has mentioned, there'll be an article published to share a bit more about the collaborations. But yes, fully agree. I'm excited to kickstart some of them. Education is a big part of what MoleDAO does. Very quick segue show. We do have our MoleDAO Chinese language courses which are happening very soon in the next few weeks. So do keep an eye out if you're in the WeChat or Bilibili groups, if you're on the Twitter space, or you're on the English speaking side, which is Twitter, Discord, Telegram. We'll be sharing details of how to log into those as well. Those courses will run for, I believe, 20 lessons, 20 or 40 is quite a big number, and it's totally free for everyone to join. So yes, very excited to work with Fakul and Elastos to continue to build that up, and we will have the English courses part 2 coming very soon. All right, let's move on into the next bit. So again, we'll do the FAQ a little bit after this. But what we will be able to do is for the audience members who are listening in, please raise your hand if you have any questions. I'll bring you on after this question to Elastos. If you are unable to access your microphone or do not want to use the mic, please go ahead and leave a comment in the Twitter itself, and I'll relay them to Fakul. So right, let's talk a little bit about the market conditions. And of course, last year, it's been a really challenging time for crypto and Web3 as a whole. It is essentially a bear market. We are almost like a year and a half, I would say, almost 2 years deep into it already. We've had so many big things happen, with FTX and Luna Terra and, countless other things. And investor as well as public sentiment in blockchain has been very low over the last few years. I'm curious to hear, from Elastos and Fakul especially, how has the bear market affected the project, and how are you kind of weathering the storm? And what do you see in the future?
Yeah, I think when it comes to bear markets, it's always difficult, especially for those projects that have not prepared for a bear market. I think there's been enough bull and bear markets, in this space that hopefully people have become conditioned to it and can think about it, be forward looking and plan for it, and not just spend all your funds on things like marketing and PR during a bull, and then basically run out of money in a bear and not be able to do anything. But I think fortunately, at least for Elastos and the community builders, largely they've been smart enough. So I think a lot of our core teams, their funding situation has been quite healthy, and so they've been able to continue building. And actually, the Elastos Foundation, which provides grants for building, the more core infrastructure components, was originally actually due to dissolve at the end of this year, because it was pretty much focused on R&D, and then it was supposed to give back, and then the community was going to take over. Fortunately, they're in a good position where they've actually decided that, hey, no, they want to now transition and continue running for a longer period and help from a market-oriented perspective. So what does that mean? As I mentioned, we've been around for 5 years, but not a lot of people have heard about us because we've just been building. Most of the resources have gone into the development, and then at the start of this year, we said, "Hey, look, most of the tech is ready. Let's start bringing it to the market." And so that's where the growth team was founded, and we've kind of been taken to the market, and I think we've been doing a reasonably good job. We've been fortunate enough to announce marquee partnerships with the likes of Cello, as well as Alibaba Cloud International, the Otsi Group, etc. And so, that those efforts have not gone unnoticed, and they've been effective. And so the foundation has shifted their approach in kind to kind of help foster and continue that. And then I think at a more community builder level, it can be quite hard because often our funds, most projects are bootstrapped to begin with. You rely on VC investment. If you run out of money, it's a really difficult time to raise right now from VCs, or you can, but you just get a really bad deal. Fortunately, I think for some projects, most projects have been able to continue, or some projects have been able to slightly pivot or expand their offering and tap into additional sources, funding. And I keep going back to Elastos, but they're a really good example where as they've continued to build, they've stepped in to help build out some of the more core components of Elastos. So you know the runtime environment. They rolled out the DRM solution, which is an industry first in this space. So yeah, for those builders out there, it's difficult, but try to keep going. And generally, what we see, Ash, is most innovation actually occurs in a bear environment, right? So if you're an individual trying to figure out what is the next project I want to look into or learn more about, now's the time, right? Because you don't need to worry about keeping an eye on candles, etc. You can spend a lot more time doing deep analysis and understanding new projects. So yeah, it's difficult. And then no one knows, when are we going to transition from this bear market to the next bull. Supposedly it's just starting now, or some say it was earlier. The Bitcoin halving is more or less here. That's supposed to signal a new bull market, but past performance doesn't necessarily always equate to future performance. But I'm optimistic. I think 2024 will hopefully be the return of the bull market. But that's just my personal advice, and obviously not financial advice.
All right, thank you. Yeah, important to have the disclaimer at the end. But yeah, I think 100% agree. We had a developer community on yesterday, Equilance, and they work with developers, they work with lots of people. And he made a really good point where he was mentioning, in the bear market, people say it's dead, it's slow. But if you really look at what's actually being developed, right, you had ZK Sync, you had L2s, you had so many different networks and people building like stuff like Cairo is coming out for ETH. There's just so many things that are actually being developed and built that will lay a really good foundation. There's lots of really cool stuff out there. So yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing. It's definitely been a long period of challenge, and hopefully projects who build out through it and like you mentioned are able to prepare well and weather the storm, are well positioned in the coming bull. So we will be starting to wrap out the Twitter space. We're coming close to the end of the hour. As I've mentioned, if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask Fakul and Elastos or even myself, please raise your hand and we'll bring you on as a speaker. If you are not able to access your microphone or do not wish to use that, add a comment into the tweet as well, and I'll push it forward and relay that information. So yeah, I think let's go into the final few bits, right? I will just want to ask in regards to the roadmap and the future of the Elastos ecosystem. So, Elasticity, the DRD projects, all these different marketplaces, Pasa as well. Give us an insight into the upcoming items on the roadmap and what users can expect.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of different community builders, and we're seeing some great new innovation and new products. I think LSCT with their DRM technology and their runtime technology, which should be ready towards the end of this year, is really exciting, and we're all looking forward to. We've also got Creda, which is due to launch a brand new credit model. There's some things that aren't officially announced, but at a super high level, there's going to be some really interesting developments around the DID technology and how it's used and integrated across partner platforms. So, we don't just build within Elastos. Our goal is to connect with other ecosystems. So, Seller is one example where we're rolling out the Elastos DID, as well as the Creda technology. Essentials, which I didn't even mention, is our super wallet within Elastos. So Essentials is a true Web3 super wallet, because not only does it allow you to do the usual, store tokens, NFTs, and do transactions, but also it comes built in with the DID. So anyone that downloads the Essentials wallet, they can immediately create a DID. They can manage their identity. You get free Hive decentralized storage, many other features. So it's really cool, and it makes it really easy to integrate it with other ecosystems. And then there's something exciting coming down the line around DIDs, and then we're also about to launch, subject to our community approving it, or the DAO approving it, an accelerator grant program within Elastos with our partners. So encouraging more builders to come and check out the technology and deploy their solutions, and we'll be helping to support those. And then there's something else big coming, which I can't really speak to, but it's around true, really exciting and innovative innovation within the DeFi space. And so, more to come in the coming months. But loads going on at Elastos. We don't tend to spend a lot of dollars on marketing and PR. We like to spend it on innovation and building, but we are now spending a bit more. So people would have seen things like the Alibaba Cloud announcement. And many others that we've done over the few months. We've got a few more this month. We've got a big marquee one coming up in the next couple of weeks to look forward to. So it's a very exciting time to be at Elastos. I'd strongly encourage people to come and check it out.
Right, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right, I think I'll do one final check for questions and comments. If not, we'll start to wrap up and go into the outro. So I'll do a little bit of outro for MoleDAO and the partnerships that are coming, and then I'll give it to Fakul to end us off and wrap us off for the night. So I think I don't have anyone here who has raised their hand or put any comments. So first of all, thank you very much to all our listeners for taking the time this evening, or whatever time it is for you. It's been a pleasure to have you here. As I've mentioned, my name is Abu. I'm part of the marketing community team. We host regular sessions like this every other day. Typically, it's Tuesday, Thursday. But as I mentioned, this week we have a few extra guests that are coming in Monday, Wednesday. So you'll be hearing from me very often this week. Today we've had Elastos, who are builders of Elasticity and a whole host of other products and suites that can help projects build out and check and grow within the Web3 ecosystem. Do check them out. You can follow the Elastos Info Twitter account, which is the other speaker account in this space. That is ELASTOSINFO. On Twitter, in their link tree, you'll see all the relevant links to warp you into the correct places to learn more. So in regards to MoleDAO, we have a few more sessions coming up for the rest of the week. So tomorrow we have Double Protocol, which is an NFT GameFi solution, NFT rental solution, my apologies, where users can rent different NFTs for their game ecosystems. And after that, on Thursday, we have Felt Labs, who are building a SocialFi app. They are based out of Europe, so for them it'll be a little bit early, but it will be same time, 8 p.m. Singapore for Felt Labs and 10 p.m. Singapore tomorrow for Double Protocol, as they are US based. But I think other than that, as I mentioned, also do check out the MoleDAO Chinese courses, which are happening this week. And then for those project owners or founders who are listening in and would like to connect with myself or anyone at MoleDAO, we do host spaces, educational activities, and other items. So we do have demo days and hackathons where we connect individuals to startups, founders, and other service providers. So if you are interested in any of these items, do drop me a DM and I'll get to you. But I don't want to go on too long. As I mentioned, today we had Elastos. They've been awesome guests. Fakul, I want to thank you personally for your time, sharing so much with us. I hope the viewers found it as insightful as I have. I'll let you take us away for the last few minutes before we wrap up. But please, if anything you'd like to share with the audience, go ahead now. And then once you're done, we will wrap up the space.
Sure thing. No, thanks for having us. It's been a true pleasure, and we are super excited by the partnership. I know a lot of individuals were unable to join the Twitter space. You gotta love Twitter. It's never works. But fortunately, there is a recording. It will be shared across social channels for those that couldn't join. But yeah, look, Elastos, we encourage people to come and check us out, come and speak to us. There's a lot going on. I would be remiss if I didn't even mention some of the other projects building on Elastos. So we've got the whole suite, right? You've got wallets such as Essentials. We've got the DEX in terms of Glide. We've got a number of marketplaces. So you've got Pessar, you've got City. We have bridges such as Token Swap, Elk Finance. We've got Feeds, which is like a decentralized version of Twitter. Really cool. We've got Creda. And there's a slew of other product offerings. So we have multiple naming services. We have all the different components, and then some strong partners in this space. Such as Alibaba Cloud. The Bitcoin merge mining community who help to secure our network. So yeah, plenty going on in Elastos. If you're a validator and you're interested in hosting a BPOS validator node, we're one of probably a very few that are actually currently profitable to manage a node, because the cost of running a BPOS node is very small. There's an incentive campaign which the foundation is currently running to help bootstrap the new consensus mechanism. So yeah, definitely worth checking that out. We've got the new grant campaign that's about to be launched, and then some of the stuff I couldn't really talk about, but so much exciting stuff going on at Elastos right now, and we're kind of coming out the blocks, and we encourage developers, community members, investors, whoever you are, to come and talk to us, because we'd love to take as many people on this journey with us. And for us, it's about uniting all of Web3 together, not just living on our own island.
Yes, thank you very much. Fakul, you've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much for your pitch, your insight. As I've mentioned, do check out the rest of their socials, Elastos Info, as well as the websites to learn more. Remember to follow them as well and follow ourselves at MoleDAO. So yeah, we're going to end of the session here. Fakul, again, thank you very much. Have a pleasant day or evening wherever you are in the world. And for everyone who's in the space, have a great morning.